Like a virulent dose of herpes, yes, we're back. Sit back, relax, procure a favourite beverage of choice as we venture into yet another episode of absolute nonsense with the social conscience of a Trump supporter. As we're itching to get started, then we're better than the news. So Seafall, numerous board game media outlets have been fooling over themselves to review Seafall by not reviewing Seafall. Is it any good? Well, we don't really know. Dice Tower, after an initial funk that the game hadn't delivered a shiny bauble after each hour, have finally settled on mildly discontented.
I really miss Pandemic. Oh, just shut
up and sit down. Meanwhile, meandered around half of London in an attempt to avoid reviewing the game, gave us what can only be described as the most polite and terribly middle-class negative review they could muster, while trying not to be negative and apologising for it. So, similar to Scythe, and yes, we're going there, could this be another instance of the wheels coming off the hype train as it careens off a cliff? Me? Well, I've moored my dinghy in the Great Egyptian River, and I'm going to ignore this particular crocodilian issue until it comes up and takes a chunk out of my arse. This has all been very depressing. So, let's move on to Kickstarter. Vengeance! Okay, now we're talking. Vengeance has taken the classic revenge movie tropes and a healthy pinch of Kill Bill and presents us with the board game equivalent. If there's one subgenre of exploitation cinema I adore, it's the revenge flick. And this looks to capture the brutal brilliance of the classics. I mean, who doesn't want to reenact the hallway scene from Old Boy?
These rats don't take kindly to people standing up to them. But someone has to. Now the only way out of this mess is to clean out the rats. But first, I gotta get myself in shape. Dust off the old beauties and go hunt me some juicy vermin. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. One down. Many more to go.
I'm so stoked to get my hands on this one. It just sounds so fucking cool. And if you want to be John Wicks out there, you need to get out, get off those sofas, get those chairs, get back in and get your game on. Vengeance is running on Kickstarter till October the 5th. And then there's this.
The fort must be gone. The hand of destiny. Gold, precious treasure. Power was divided.
God Strategy. So, an open source card game with a mysterious destiny device. I think it's really actually a really clever coaster. It's essentially Magic the Gathering with a wooden doodad that picks the cards you can use. As the video explains.
But the only true God shall rule.
Pardon?
He will curse the day that there was born a Frankenstein. What?
Having successfully lent his talents to God Strategy, Mr. Indecipherable Voiceover Man has also found gameplay employment on Zorbing Time.
You heroes prepare for battle. Behold, one tap and you go flying.
What a bag of dicks. Well, hello, Mr. Benjamin Fartlin here, with an information on another spiffing new parlour game from those cheeky mulattoes that brought us the Cards Against the Humanities. Secret Hitter. Well, crikey, love a duck. Those Cards Against the Humanity chaps have had a right old chortle about Mr. Hitler and his queer ways. After all, they made rape hilarious. And well, knock me for a whore hell sideways. Not only is this a splendid social deduction game, but as handsome as a mahogany water closet. Let's take a look. Set during the turmoil of 1930s German politics, this is in fact an engrossing simulation of the events that led to Hitler's actual rise to power. All the art and design of the game has a sterilised 1940s propaganda feel to it, with the Nazis tastefully portrayed as lizards to avoid the awkwardness of somebody having to step into the jackboots of everyone's favourite genocidal maniac. All the components feature stunningly top-drawer production values, and it has the feel of a coffee table board game that you could leave out to beguile any passing hipsters. The game itself is incredibly simple to teach. You'll need from 5 to 10 players. Each is secretly given an envelope containing their identity and party loyalty. A president and chancellor are elected, and then they must choose policies to enact. These will be either liberal or fascist policies. If 5 liberal policies can be enacted or Hitler is assassinated, the liberals win. However, if 6 fascist policies are enacted or Hitler is elected chancellor after 3 or more fascist policies are in play, the fascists win. To choose policies, the president draws 3 policy tiles, looks at them in secret and discards 1, passing the remaining to the chancellor, who must choose one to enact. The clever twist is for every enacted fascist policy, it unlocks powerful fascist powers that have to be used by the president, whether liberal or not. These include looking at players' party membership card or later in the game assassinating other players. What this accomplishes is, despite the liberals' loathing of the fascist ideals, enacting them will give powers that will either use to seek out Hitler. It's an enthralling and depressingly historically accurate representation of one of history's biggest political facepalms. This comes highly recommended, and lovers of social deduction games will lap it up. I will add a couple of caveats. Firstly, this includes player elimination, which depending on your views you may or may not want to play with, and may put you off. And to get the full flavour of the game, the optimum count is of 7 players. And for those people still up in arms at the theme, well, the game goes to great pains to teach us the dangers of how an insidious political ideal led by one man can gain power, and the ramifications on our world and the bloodshed that can follow just such an event. Thankfully, in these enlightened times, we could never allow such a travesty to ever happen again in the political stage. Would we?
Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? If you think we're on